And that gives us a good occasion and opportunity to open episode number 42 of the NewsX Business World Atmanirbhar series. Over the course of the past 9 weeks, we have profiled hundreds of entrepreneurs, business owners, startup founders, and people associated with India Inc. to drive this forward. The message here is simple. We want all of us, you, me, watching this broadcast, sitting in this broadcast, to have a greater recognition of, appreciation of, and more importantly, a loyalty to the great work that is being done by the wealth creators that exist right here in India. It's okay to look abroad, it's okay to seek investment from abroad, but great things are happening in this country, great products are coming up, great services are coming up. How do we get that action plan started? Well, we have been doing this here in association with Business World, obviously, and Anurag Thakur joining us, Anurag Batra joining us. The reason I said Anurag Thakur for obvious reason is because the reference I was supposed to make, Dr. Batra, that the finance ministry has been holding these interactions with the banking and non-banking corporations pretty regularly, as far as I know, for the past 2 months. But now that we know it's happening at the Prime Minister level, tomorrow evening this big meeting is going to take place, where we'll be meeting stakeholders from banks and NBFCs. This is indicative that a fresh push is coming our way.
Yes, absolutely. And the whole talk around the economy is about liquidity and, in some way creating demand. So the banks and the financial services institutions, both NBFCs and other new age fintech players, are key to that liquidity and demand coming back. So the Prime Minister is doing the right thing by engaging with them, and hopefully you'll see some action soon.
Okay, with that, let me quickly introduce all our panel members this evening. Mr. Ashutosh Garg, he's the former founder chairman of Guardian Pharmacy, joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Kailash Nath Adhikari, managing director of Governance Now, is on the broadcast. Mr. Rajiv Mathur, he's regional advisor, Asia Outstanding Security Performance Awards, OSPA. Mr. Samayesh Khanna, co-founder of Beanley Coffee. Mr. Jitendra Sharma, MD and founder of Okinawa. Ms. Raki Mehta also joining us. She's founder and CEO of Magic Rise. Anurag ji, why don't you set up this conversation for us?
I'd start with Ashutosh. Ashutosh, you've been an entrepreneur. You sold a business. You built a business. You understand how business is done. Now, the last 120 days have been very challenging. What is your advice to entrepreneurs who are working this entrepreneurship path currently? And second, how do you see the economic stimulus? Do you see it making an impact in the entrepreneur ecosystem? These are two questions to start with. Ashutosh.
Thank you, Anurag. As an entrepreneur, I have only 3 words to say, which is hang in there. Entrepreneurship is a difficult business. It is difficult. I've got a little startup called The Brand Called You, which I'm nurturing right now. It is tough, but it is not the end of the world. I think we are going through an aberration. The whole world is going through it. Fortunately for us, this is not something that is unique to India. So I think, the life will come back to normal. It may take a little longer. Normal may not be the normal that we were expecting or we were used to 4 months ago. But I can already see green shoots. I've been speaking to many entrepreneurs, many businesses, many industrialists, and everyone is saying that the turnaround has been definitely much better than what they had thought it would be. Coming, Anurag, to your second question on the economic stimulus, 20 lakh crores is a completely unprecedented amount of money that this country has ever seen. It may not have gone to industry, it may not have gone to the people who were hoping it would go to, but remember, we are a 1.3 billion population country. Our people around the country need to be looked after. The poor in this country have to be looked after. Agricultural has to be looked after. The rural and migrant laborers have to be looked after. So I think that the stimulus that has first been given has been incredible, and that is already beginning to be seen in the very high demand that is coming for FMCG products out of rural India. I was speaking to some of the large FMCG companies, and all of them seem to be suggesting that rural India has turned around much faster than urban India. So I'll stop here and hand it back to you.
Kailash, One of the things is about governance. It's a very large country. To be able to reach the 750 odd districts is itself a challenge. What I want to ask you is, when you talk to your entrepreneur friends, have you seen the economic stimulus really making an impact to their businesses and their lives? How do you see the economy, and when do you think the demand will be back? Kailash Adhikari.
Thank you, Dr. Batra, and thank you for inviting me. There was a lot of, patient waiting for the fact that when would India come out with an economic stimulus when we heard about the West countries. And yes, as Mr. Garg mentioned, that 20 lakh crore is a huge amount, considering the fact that our total tax receipts amount to 22 lakh crores. So announcing an economic stimulus of 20 lakh crores is huge. And one more thing that I feel that that has really been at the forefront of government's agenda is the MSME sector, because MSME is the backbone of our economy and providing the much needed stimulus in various formats, be it the credit guarantee scheme, be it also the distress fund, the equity option, and the subordinate debt scheme. But what, when I talk to my other entrepreneur friends who are real MSMEs and also large corporates, what they really fear is at the particular point of time that even though the government is very positive about giving out, and daily we hear the figures that even the FM is sharing that this much amount of money has been disbursed. But when you go to the finer nuances of a particular policy and the ground implementation, there where the question of governance comes, so much is not being looked after. Like I was talking to an entrepreneur friend, he's in the textile sector, and that's been also very badly hit during the current pandemic. He's like that when he approached his bank for that extra credit during this particular the MSME period, even though the facts were there that collateral would not be needed, government is providing that collateral, but the banks are like, where it is written collateral is not needed, I will extend your current collateral. So, when you go to the finer nuances, yes, there are certain points which the industry may not be happy with. But yes, government has to also manage its own balance sheet. And at the end, I'd like to say that in the true spirit of providing an economic stimulus is to boost the industry. Because when you boost the industries in certain important sectors such as infrastructure and real estate, which has a ripple effect on various other sectors, steel.
Kailash, you're suggesting that the government spends a lot of money on the infrastructure. That's the only way to revive demand.
Absolutely, because that will lead to stimulus demand of steel, you'd say cement, and even jobs for that matter.
Labor, both in the skilled and the unskilled side. So we'll come back to you. Mr. Sharma, what are your opening remarks on the economic stimulus, and where do you see the Indian economy headed?
If you take my opinion, Dr. Anurag, already there is a huge package already announced by PM Modi, as already said my co-panelists, like 20 lakhs crores of rupees. So I think it will bring the stimulus in India economy, and also the mission from Atmanirbhar Bharat. That is also a way work towards pushing the privatization in India, which will help revive the economy in the current situation of this COVID also. And the next thing to see the execution as the COVID-19 slows down. And of course, the economic activity will resume pan-India. Because if you see, as based on all this situation, at the end of the day, we should be very practical about all this situation, because it is not for India. It is the whole world is going through this pandemic. So we, of course, by this package, of course, India economy will revive, and after this population and this.
When would that be? When you say economy will revive, in 90 days, in 6 months, in 12 months, when do you see us coming back to pre-COVID numbers?
I think next quarter, that will be near the festival season will come, and we hope we will revive the economy. And because as we in the Okinawa as an electric automobile company, two-wheeler, we see now people are moving towards this localization. Parties also play a very important role for enhance the economy for India.
Have you been able? I want to ask you. You're in the EV space. Have you been able to build an alternate supply chain to China in this 2-3 months, or are you looking to build it in the next 6 months, 1 year, 2 years?
Yeah, of course. If you see as a Okinawa, we already have got this fame to it. Means we already have localization level is more than 90% of what we are making in India. So we already have the supply base in India. So if you see already as a Okinawa, we already pushing towards the alternate source, because we should not be dependent on China or other part of the world. Because if we want to enhance our economy, and we have to got a good QCD combination, like quality and the cost combination. and to reboost our economy, we have to depend on our localization. Vocal for local is the best part for it, which even PM has said about this. And I think in the very soon, in the coming months, I think people are moving all the automobile, especially the two-wheeler sector, will reboost again, and I think we'll get this economy back very soon during this localization. And we're already working on the alternate source, not for Okinawa. I think other players who are working in this space, they're already working on that, and it will bring the economy very soon back. And we are hopeful for this.
Okay, Samesh, you
Hi.
are a young entrepreneur who has a coffee business, which is both B2B and B2C. Tell us, as a young entrepreneur who started last year, is it a conducive environment to operate? Of course, COVID has been a dampener for all sectors. How do you see the economy and the economic stimulus as a very young entrepreneur who's in the second year of his operations?
So actually, coming from where Beanly is today, our opinion will be very different from most other players. As a startup, the economic stimulus hasn't helped us much yet. That said, we're hoping all the new developments as they happen and as they unfold will come and start helping startups. Once, like Kailash mentioned, once you get into the finer nuances of what the stimulus has done for us, there are a lot of things that need a little bit of tweaking. And yes, we hope that going forward, we seek a lot more support from the government.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
in
so
terms of what we've been doing, I think the way we built the business up over the last few years, a lot of it was dependent on our own sources of income from the business. So a lot of the money that came in from what we
Okay.
were doing was
Okay, so
deployed.
Samesh,
you built a sustainable business model. What
Absolutely.
Rishabh, Samesh is saying, that we were not dependent on funding, we were making money and expanding our business, which is the need of the hour post-COVID.
Yeah, which is what has kept us going till now. And I think monetizing the internet, that's one of those things which has really kept us afloat as well. We've been able to monetize the internet, and we built Bindi as a direct-to-consumer brand.
Okay, so Samesh,
of
why don't you
course,
just
that
help us
has
understand,
helped us,
if I can just do an interjection, if you just help us understand, when you're talking about the last mile issues that are taking place, what would specifically help you and people at your stage in running a company? What do you guys need?
In terms of logistics, yes, COVID did impact our last mile solutions, but I feel on that front the government had done a good job, and even though we were impacted initially, as time passed, things opened up a lot more, and our sales went up online.
Okay,
So, and our
if you're
deliveries
saying you
weren't
don't need to raise
affected
funds,
much.
but if you wanted to raise funds, where do you think the loopholes remain? We've already mentioned one loophole, that the banks are being a bit more sticky about the generic policy.
Yeah, banks are being very picky about generic policies. I think they're a lot more defensive in terms of providing access to capital. We would also have wished that there was the startup ecosystem was a little more developed. But I think with time, that's also going to change. Things are going to change really quickly after this. And India has generally been very fast to adapt. And I'm
Okay,
sure
because
going
we
forward,
need guys
will be
like
one
you
of the
adapting
fastest
fast, and that's the logic. Rakhi Mehta, why don't you come in? For our viewers watching us, why don't you tell us a bit what Magic Rise does?
So Magic Rise is a wellness platform. We wanted to bring back old school wellness into the new age, era. We basically don't promote, super fit bodies. We only tell people that you go from 0 to 1. So today, when everyone talks about mental wellness, we were the pioneers in redeveloping and creating a very novel way of reaching it. And in about 2.5 years, we reached 15 cities and 2 countries. We've managed conducting this at NASDAQ, and we've also featured on Shark Tank.
Okay, so is it then? Are you doing an advice-led, a service-led model? What was your model?
So we initially were an idea-led model, which moved to a B2B model, which was currently majorly corporates, because that's what you realize, that you need to adapt with the Indian market being like that, because there's no other option. So that was primarily our model. But whenever we went to the West, it was B2C.
Okay.
because this as a concept is, more paid for.
Okay,
and,
so what's changed? What's made you survivable? How is your logic changed in the past 4-5 months?
So, like everyone else here, we have to keep adapting. That's the only way. It's something like, how India from a mask deficit became a surplus supplier for masks today. So it's something like that. So we adapted to online. Just day before, we did our first virtual global wellness concert. So we had artists from across the globe, and we had like about 1,000 people participating. So that's how we started changing, and we are looking at changing the corporate experience. Of course, making
Are you finding these online experiences monetizable? Because most people telling us that look, online people are finding
no,
it
not
difficult
at the
to pay.
moment, not
No.
at the moment. But see, you have to give anything and everything that you do has a gestation
Okay.
period.
Okay.
So you have to work around it. For example, right now, especially after COVID, one of the biggest things that will open up is wellness. We have seen examples of it. How mental wellness is affecting everyone, you, me, and and also traditionally, because of our culture, we don't come out and speak about it unless and until some major catastrophe happens.
True that.
So we're talking about it softly. What are you going through in this time? This is
Okay,
where
okay.
our
Let's take this forward on how that actually impacts a business in its bottom line and top lines. Anurag, you want to get Mr. Mathur in?
Yeah, Mr. Mathur, you come from the security industry, the professional outsourced services industry. And again, there have been layoffs on those in your sector. And also, the growth that was expected this year hasn't happened. And again, in the security domain, we have entry-level salaries, very large workforce. So tell us, can there be social concerns in your sector? And if yes, how are you addressing it?
Thank you very much, Dr. Batra, for this question. You said very rightly, my background is from the security industry. And all of you who are watching here are my customers as an industry. Now, security industry is basically divided into two parts. One is the man guarding security industry, the other is the technology-oriented security industry. This industry has been trying to, establish a mark in the business world for a long time. The first time it got recognition was in the year 2005, and government had a regulation act, Private Security Agency Regulation Act, and second time is now. Because apart from health care workers, the frontline workers, only the private security industry was working overtime. The private security industry was working more than much beyond than security aspect. And on the other hand, of course, like you said, that it's a minimum paying industry, and we have a very large workforce working in this industry. It's perhaps the toughest time for this, for all of us here. But what we have got after three, 4 months is another recognition and appreciation from everybody who's a customer. From the customer point of view. In the man guarding industries, yes, people have gone back to their hometown, people have gone back to their villages, and it is difficult. I mean, the industry as a whole is facing difficulty to manage things when it is required, all the more, because people are less, the work is less, you have to be more vigilant, you have to be more secure.
Maybe automation has happened in some parts
Yes.
of the value chain.
Absolutely. The technology has played an important role. And while we are talking about government giving this economic stimulus, it's also that when government is been promoting Make in India, and security electronics is one of the major concern for the government to promote. I don't know how many of you are aware that about 5 days ago, Ministry of Finance has come up with an office order saying that any equipment, electronics equipment which the countries are manufacturing, which share land borders with India, have now to register themselves with Ministry of Finance.
Yes, on Huawei. Yes.
That means the government is not only giving support to Make in India, but also coming up with policies to support what they are saying.
Okay, and of course, incidentally, Rituraj Sinha, MD of SIS Group, is joining us at 7 o'clock on the broadcast. But, specifically, Mr. Mathur, what in the business dynamics has changed? Because some industries have been running, including ours in the media. We've been running throughout. But the environment around us is drastically changing. Those are realities. Now yours is not really much of a discretionary spend, because even if your warehouse is empty and shut, you still need a security guard there. But are you seeing an automation, as Anurag mentioned, a digitization is happening? What all has changed and what all can't change?
Okay, so on the lighter side, and which makes me proud by saying this, what has changed is that we have got importance again. We have got our importance back in the business world. That's one. Second, yes, things are converging towards automation. You know, the typical man guarding security systems are now converging into man tech solutions. Technology and man guarding, converging.
No, but man tech, what do you mean? Do you mean the guy who's then, are you training people to check temperature, to take deliveries, what man tech is changing in that?
Absolutely, yes. And there's more and more application of equipment. There is more and more application of technology. You are making a guard learn to see to use the technology. Once, 4 months, 5 months ago, he used to stop you at the gate and check you physically. Now he sees in a couple of monitors around him, and he sees that this person is wearing a mask or having a temperature.
Okay, so there might be a skills value add in that also. Let's get Mr. Garg back into this before I run out of time in the first segment. Mr. Garg, on a larger scheme, now there are problems that we need to fix, and we need to fix as a collective. What's the problem remaining? Now, we've had the stimulus. We know the Prime Minister is holding another important meeting tomorrow. What are the problems that require fixing?
Well, I would say, I would put it into 4 categories. Number one, I think Anurag also just spoke about is, infrastructure spending has to be really increased very substantially.
Yeah.
And given the amount of workers who have gone back home and the large amounts of money that have been put into Manrega, I think the amount of spending will go out and the people will have money in their hands. The second one, and our government seems to be shy of this, every major country is doing this, we need to print money aggressively. We need to print money aggressively. It may have an issue in terms of liquidity, too much liquidity, but sometimes you just have to print your way out of...
Not worry about downgrades from the credit rating agencies?
Very true. Number 3 is that I believe that the direct benefit transfer mechanism that has been put into place by this government must be utilized to the full. Put 3,000, 2,000, 1,500, whatever money in the hands of every single individual. And that will drive a huge amount of money into the market. And fourth, invest big sums of money into our supply chain. I sit on a couple of boards in supply chain companies. And while a lot of investments are going on, I don't think enough is being done. Our supply chain is basically weak. So I would say these are the 4 things that we've got to invest in. Having said that, I do believe the paradigm has changed. We will, after COVID-19, whenever the thing becomes normal, we will have 3 situations of what is necessary for us to live, what is essential for us to live, and what is desirable for us to live. And each one of us, and I'm sure all 8 people around on this panel today, will be asking themselves every time money has to be spent, do I really need this?
Okay.
And that, I think, is what is going to drive demand. That is what is going to be driving our decision making. And we need to be able to work more with customer sentiment.
Okay. On a different note, sometimes retail therapy is good for the mind a little bit, even if it's on e-commerce platforms. Anurag.
And so is coffee. Rishabh, which is what Samesh does. Samesh, what I want to ask you is, you're trying to raise capital. I am aware of that. What is the kind you're getting, kind of response you're getting when you're raising capital?
So actually, when we go out to raise capital, coming from where we are, we've been early adopters in the coffee segment. So the response has been positive, but at the same time, we've heard many times on this panel and ever since COVID, investors aren't as open to giving money. So yes, that has been a concern, but the Beanly model has been very different. We've been taking freshly brewed coffee to the consumer, to their home, and so that it's been a very different model. And we've been very early adopters. We've had a 2-year head start over anybody in the industry. So we believe that the future is going to be good. Money will possibly come in. And
Okay,
though
but
it's
Sandesh,
requirement-
just to readapt the question Anurag is putting to you. I mean, what's the ceiling that you see right now? Is the ceiling the demand? Is the ceiling the ability to scale? Is the ceiling that a technical issue, a reform issue, or simply an issue about raising enough capital?
So actually, a bit of all, but what our first concern would be is even before we go into an equity round, before we go into equity investments, what the first concern is there is no debt available in the country today. We are not finding access to bank funding right now. I mean, not as conveniently as we expected it to be. That would be one of the concerns that.
Okay, it's a reasonable concern, and I'm assuming this is why the PM is holding this meeting tomorrow. Anurag Batra, there is it's a counterintuitive. At one end, capital should be very cheaply available now. So, in fact, if you're a profitable company, good time to go and borrow. But at the same point of time, the companies that need the capital, both for expansion or otherwise, not getting it. The banks are still being a bit sticky with their fingers.
I think, Rishabh, what is happening is that what the government meant by giving the norm was to see if somebody had an existing working relationship with the bank, and hence pre-approved limits and also a past history of repayment. That's what they were looking at. Now, if you look at certain businesses which are startup in the real way, I think they have genuinely been left out. There is no ambiguity about that. I think the government's focus has been to keep the businesses that are already in the play to be in the play, because they would employ a larger number of workforce, and they possibly, somebody who's making his repayments on time has possibly a better chance of surviving. Oh, so this logic saying, oh, we didn't borrow, but we are trying to borrow now, but we don't qualify.
Okay.
The fact is that you couldn't borrow, possibly that was the reason you didn't borrow. You couldn't repay, you couldn't service. So I think the government has done its bit. And Rishabh, I would like to say on NewsX that a lot of people's tax refunds have come. At least 5, 6 entrepreneurs on our show have said that they've been able to get a line of credit, they've been able to get bank funding. So it is a very case to case. You cannot make a very broad appeal. I want to ask Kailash one question. Kailash, do you really believe that capital going forward, because capital is what makes entrepreneurship happen. You have to have a passion, idea, all that is a given. But it's capital that entirely makes sure that you scale up fast. Do you see government doing things that will make sure that the cost of capital comes down? Kailash Adhikari?
So, Dr. Batra, RBI has taken those steps. And a few days ago, RBI governor also hinted at the fact that they will come down with certain their basis points, which definitely brings down the cost of capital. But as you mentioned, also the fact that government is trying hard, and also, see, every policy has its own kind of interpretation. Like in the MSME guarantee scheme, it was that it's eligibility for those companies who have a turnover of up to 100 crores and borrowing should not exceed 25 crores. So now that was a rider that was put into place, as you mentioned, so that limit is given to those companies who are already in employment, who are providing employment and who already have a certain line of business. Now going forward, literally, I believe that because I certainly believe that economy to come back and on its whole, when I mean economy to come back, I mean all the sectors put together. It will take about 6 months to 12 months. And for that, we have to provide easy access to capital and capital at a cheap cost. What happens is that, in a country where the cost of capital goes up to things like 12 to 14%. And when you...
At the lower end sometimes. Dare I say...
And when you don't have margins of 12 to 14%, that's when your debt bubble increases. Even if you see the kind of debt bubble, and recently we heard former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan hinting at the fact that once you have the moratorium ending, you will see a great pile of bad loans coming up. And this was even documented few days ago by a government body. Now, the reason being that capital, firstly, access to capital and the cost of capital. When your cost is about 12 to 14%, and even for an MSME, it's 9.5% under this guarantee scheme, and when you know that for coming some time your margins won't be that much, how will you service that?
Okay, so getting the money moving is Jitendra Sharma, getting the money moving now at a time when the supply chain within industry of money, not only in India but globally, which means from one business to the other business to the third business, is already facing stress. Is an equivalent amount of stress remaining for existing businesses such as yours in acquiring fresh capital, maybe against dues?
Yeah, you are right. I think maybe there is some stress on it, the supply chain, because there is one is the economy impact, other is the labor impact also. Because of this COVID, lots of the labor availability is also a question mark as on today in the automobile sector. And by the same time, the fusion of more economy in the business is also another bottleneck for the new startup, as already we have discussed by some of the panelists, that if they are coming in but they don't have the good capital to infuse that money to enhance their business or expansion of their business.
So how do we do it? Because banks are reticent, and banks are reticent not only because of COVID. There were lots of issues going on in terms of a bad debt cleanup much before that was happening and recapitalization happening. If banks are reticent, we have new fintech startups. We were speaking to a few of them on this episode only over the past couple of weeks. But those don't have the scale right now, at least don't have the scale for long-term funding. Then what's the solution?
I think the solution is the demand and supply. If you generate more demand, you have generated more business, and you'll get the economy back to your business also.
Okay.
So it depends on how you run your business. What is the reason behind that? So based on the demand and supply, if that balance is good, I think you will get the money back, and I think you can sustain your business in this COVID.
Okay, there's another aspect on this, and Raki, help us understand this, because Anurag and I were discussing this yesterday. There is in fact another category of demand existing, but we are not in a position to monetize it. That is in the case of media, is in the case of a lot of OTT platforms. Monetization of a demand on online platforms is another problem. Now, how do we crack this?
So that's where I was actually going to even add on to Mr. Sharma's point. See, one of the things is that the government will have to focus and spend money to create that demand as well. The demand will have to start with working on micro and macro objectives together. That will be one part of this of the problem. And apart from just us surviving, they will also have to look at new industries which are coming from abroad and give them a single clearance window. Something similar applies to entertainment. So the other day when we did the international concert, one of the things that we came across was the IPRS and the PRS rules and stuff. So things like relaxing the fees, because the government needs to understand if artists sit at home and if they don't work, then there is literally no work in that zone, and they'll have so many extra jobs to create. So the government will have to work on at least simplifying their policies.
Okay.
If nothing else, if they at least simplify the policies, people will know what to do. For example, like a very crude example, but when we had to send the migrants back, we had to create a link to so that they can register and be sent slot by slot. Something similar has to be done. We need a one window for every department, so that we understand the laws, because you and me sitting at home getting fined for something that we don't know will obviously create more problem. But on the flip side, because we are 1.3 billion Indians, we can, look at Netflix. Netflix is the fastest growing company right now, solely because of the increase in demand of online entertainment.
Anurag Batra, now, there are so many things that are happening simultaneously. We've had a security scenario, but that security scenario is staring us in the face of the economics of it. News has been circulating for the past 24 hours that more of these Chinese apps are being banned. There's a huge debate going on about Huawei and ZTE, escalating into Chinese-made products also. Where does it go from here?
I think my personal view is that there is a window of opportunity. I wouldn't say that the window of opportunity will be open forever. I think at some stage we will get integrated, because we are India. We're not China. We will not shut out the Facebooks, the Googles, the other companies from the Indian economy like the Chinese did. So right now it is a retaliation to what happened to our soldiers at the Galwan border. But I think at some stage we will make the market free for everyone to compete. So it's a window of opportunity. It will create some lookalikes and some winners. But I think what is most important is that the cost of capital be brought down.
Yeah.
I think if the cost of capital continues to be what it is, and there is scarcity of capital, I think no matter how much passion we have, how much resilience we have, what is the quality of idea, the 1.3 billion people that we have, it doesn't kick in. It's the cost of capital.
But you know, Dr. Batra, the other concept, you know, I've referred to this in the past of, you know, us still being in the imported hai to behtar hai kind of logic that applies not only to products, it applies to services. It's applied to how we approach our own entrepreneurs. You know, while we're looking abroad for foreign companies to come in, we forget that we have very good companies here in India. What is that? What's that ceiling, glass ceiling there?
You know, I want to, Rishabh, give you two responses. First response, why TikTok was banned, and we had the Chingari founder on our show a couple of days back, and there are other Indian apps. But the fact is, and dare I say, I'm saying it, the quality of user experience is not the same. Let's be very, very clear. I mean, there may be exceptions to the rule, but the quality of experience is not the same. The product interface is not the same. So one, I think we still have to improve the quality of software product that we put out.
Okay.
At the end of it, it's an app, it's a software product. Second, I want to say that while the Indian companies and Indian entrepreneurs launch it, there are global companies like Facebook who've launched Reels. Now, that's a direct competition to TikTok.
Yeah.
Now, everything being equal, I'm saying the idea of the Indian entrepreneur is good, the product is good, the passion is good, the marketing is disruptive. Do you think if Facebook launches Reels and an Indian entrepreneur launches something else called Chingari, who has the advantage?
Okay.
I mean, I'll leave it to you and other panelists to make
Ashutosh Gar, why don't you come in on this, because there is a mental block glass ceiling which I've already mentioned here. You know, if all you guys have a startup in San Francisco, suddenly we consider you much more popular and successful regardless of what you're doing. So there's a mental block glass ceiling. Then there's a practical glass ceiling. Have we got onto the curve too late? Is the creative opportunity still existing, you know, in the space to come up with disruptors? Or are we Indian entrepreneurs only looking that, look, we build the company to a certain level, after that it's better to sell it to some foreign investor?
So, Rishabh, let me give you an interesting anecdote. You know, in
Rishabh, you asked Ashutosh.
Yeah, I know you mentioned that he sold his company. Yes.
He's had a big exit. He built a big company.
Well, I'm hoping he's building the second. I'm hoping he's going to build the second big one now.
Okay, so if I thank you for that, Anurag. But you know, the anecdote is that when we moved to Singapore in 1989, and if you drive down the Little India, there were posters which used to say "imported shirts for sale." Now, the fact that we are in Singapore and the fact that Indians had to come to Little India and read "imported shirts for sale" meant how much our psyche was connected to imported. But having said that, in the
that shirt, by the way, is now coming from Bangladesh. Huh?
No, in those days, textiles were still in India.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that, you know, we've come a long way in the last 30 years. And today, I think there is much more confidence in our millennials. There's much, and we've got several millennials on our show today. We've got much more confidence in our own abilities. And I don't think people are just building to sell. I think people are building to create global institutions. For the first time, I'm beginning to hear millennials say, this is not an Indian platform, it's a global platform.
Okay.
And that, I think, is what is going to make the difference.
So what's the glass ceiling? So it's not intent. Then what's the glass ceiling?
The glass ceiling is we did not have the infrastructure, we did not have the funding capabilities, we did not have the ability, the support from our government to say, look beyond your state or look beyond your country. Today, I think the government is starting to say, think big.
Okay, so let me flip the question around before I go back to Anurag. Would we want to see, you know, the Teslas of the world coming and setting up in India, or can we say, listen, we don't need you. We'll rather have our own entrepreneurs, taking you on EVs and I don't know, building a rocket ship to Mars or something like that.
Well, I think from an Indian perspective, both have to coexist. I mean, Jitendra is on the show and he's doing a lot of work on electronic vehicles, but that doesn't mean that we cut out the foreign players. We've always worked like this. Dr. Batra did say that we are not a country that shuts ourselves down. So I think it's, that's the strength of our country.
Okay.
We learn to coexist. We allow everyone to come in.
Okay, Dr. Batra, why don't you get Jitendra on that?
So, Raki, you were raising your hand. You wanted to respond to, is India the market? is India your market, or you think globally? First Rakhi and then Kailash.
So we think globally, of course, because I started out in San Francisco. That's why I raised my hand. So, and we brought it here, rather than going the other way around. And like Mr. Garg said, we are here for the long run. We're here since 3 years, and we're building it slowly because we want to create a difference. And we're here to stay. Typically, yeah. I think that the change in attitude in millennials is there, but a change in attitude in the investors also needs to come in terms of looking at the rational side, at the emotional aspect, because everything is not balance sheet and numbers. So, how Mr. Batra said that if somebody launches a Chingari and an Instagram deal comes in, of course, an Instagram deal will pick up more than a Chingari. I mean, that's the stark reality of it.
Right now, Chingari is doing very well.
Yeah, it's doing really well.
Yeah,
Phenomenally
really
well.
well, but really well is always subjective, now, Mr. Batra. So, in that sense, I support what you're saying. But like all opportunities are equal. No one's saying that we can't reach them. So, but the point is how fast, and that will come when the investor psyche also changes. It cannot be okay in how many years.
Okay, but how does I'm also one of those people with bona fide family in Palo Alto. Why does an Indian entrepreneur go and become successful in a Singapore or in a Palo Alto, but not here? What's that infrastructural thing that you're talking about?
I found a job on a boat in Croatia. I worked with the founder of Atari. I literally convinced them to give me a job in 5 minutes, and they gave me a job. I went at the age of 30 as an intern. That is called openness. The founder of Atari is Nolan Bushnell, who gave Steve Jobs and Bill Gates his first job. And I worked with his son. The idea of working with creators and developers, I worked in a tech circus, really opened up my mind how open they are. They really don't ask for a degree. They really don't ask you for anything else. You have the willingness to work, you have an idea, they will accept you. That is the primary difference.
Okay, for anybody wanting an internship in NewsX, you don't have to show us a degree. Some passion and knowing the capital of India would help. Kailash.
So, my point of view is same as what Mr. Garg said. See, we live in a globalized world. And somewhere down the line, Indian economy opened up in 1991 after liberalization, privatization and globalization happened. So if we think that we can cut off global ties, no, that's not possible. But at the same time, yes. I believe that diplomatic equations is a separate concept. But the whole fact of augmenting the process of prioritizing our own people, our own indigenous industries happened with Made in India back then. And now the time has come that we are terming it as Atmanirbhar.
Okay, so but Kailash, I have a specific question. Now the Chinese, they banned the Twitter, the Facebook, the Googles, okay? That's how they run the country. We are not like that. But that gave them the opportunity to build the Baidus and the WeChats. Now, if we are not following the Chinese model, that we simply say that our Desi strategic decision is that tech is a strategic sector. We want our companies and not foreign companies. If that's not the model, and we are saying that we don't yet have the infrastructure to build that scale here, what's the solution then?
The solution is to provide that kind of infrastructure. The solution cannot be just that, I don't believe in the Chinese philosophy that once you shut down Twitter, Facebook, then only you can build your own indigenous model. Your own indigenous model can also be built. And we are proud of the fact that Oyo is also an Indian startup which has reached up to that level of scale. You cannot stop an Instagram reel from coming in, but that does not also deter and Chingari from becoming a TikTok or an Instagram reel.
Okay, so they simply have to be better and we have to root for them harder. I think Ashutoshi wants to come in and then let's get Mr. Sharma again. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment, about how Indian startups, I have two sons. One is, in Singapore, one is in America. They work for large corporate companies. They started a cricket podcast 3 years ago. And they built it. And today it's the #1 ranked cricket podcast in the world.
Good on them.
It's, right now people are beginning to do things. And if two individuals who do it part-time can do this, I see no reason why Indians are not able to.
No, send them, Mr. Garg, send them our way. I'd love to interview them. Jitendra Sharma, taking this from a perspective point of view, that making our own ability to compete directly with the consumer when we are open to other options, and especially now in your domain it's a bit different. In a tech domain, the logistics supply chains don't matter as much. In yours they do. But making a true make in India product, let's take a mobile phone, maybe 5 years from now, that's truly competitive. What would it take?
Yeah. If you take my opinion about this, of course, there is a window of opportunities there, and anytime and anyhow we have to start. I think this is the right time. Otherwise, we will miss that bus also, because now the time has changed. Because when, as one of the panelists tell that the Tesla has to come to India, whether we have to work together with them or not. I think we have to work with them also, but by the same time, why we cannot become the Tesla for the other countries also? Maybe I think in future Okinawa will become the Tesla for other countries also. We can put up the factories so that the people will adopt the technology of the EV. Because after this, all this China episode, I think we are getting a very good response from the other part of the world. They are asking for the orders for
Excellent.
us, for Okinawa, they want to import the EV vehicles from India because they have the confidence based on the quality of the Indian product, because they know the technology, because we also understand the Indian engineers and the doctors are one of the best in the world. So I think we should ensure ourselves, must have the confidence on us.
We have great
But-
case studies. So you mentioned your success, and I wish you the best. And I'm hoping a lot more Indians shift to electric and look towards you. Hero and others, so many other indigenous success stories. But what's the X factor missing? Is it the we prefer imported? I know so many Indians, friends of mine, who booked a Tesla even though it doesn't sell in India 3 or 4 years ago. All right. So what's that X factor that is still missing?
I think that is the you can say one of the point is the new things which they will adopt very fast as Indian adopt it. One point is that. Second thing is they have the resources for the innovation, because they have got whatever the facilities what they have in the other part of the world, in
Good
the
point.
western part of the world. I think if you want to do that type of innovation in India, we need the resources. So only the limitation of the resources is the one factor which are just stopping us to do the better what they are doing that.
Okay, so they
And
can they can burn more money on R&D versus a lot of you guys having to run an active business. Anurag, we got about 7-8 minutes left. Take it away.
What I want to ask Mr. Sharma is, if we talk to you in 6 months from now, what do you think would be the overall offtake of EV, both in two-wheeler and four-wheeler? And if we had to broadly categorize it into totally Atmanirbhar, which means 90% or more of the product is from Indian supply chain, everything Indian, and something that is from anywhere else in the world, what would be that percentage?
if you see like for the automobile sector in terms of two-wheeler, the four-wheeler, I think two-wheeler is the biggest market in the world. India is one of the biggest market. Like last year, automobile market was more than 20 million. And now the time has changed. This vehicle has changed from IC engine to the electric vehicles. And people are going more forward to adopt this technology also in terms of the running cost, in terms of economic viability. Second thing is the nature, because after this COVID things, people also understand nature is a very important part of our life also. And I think in the future, I think this volume is going to increase drastically. And coming 4 to 5 years, I think the overall two-wheeler market is going to around 35 million. So out of this, maybe 25% or 30% will be the electric two-wheeler market also. And this is only because if the good performance vehicle is there, I think people will adopt it because of the technology, because of the innovation and the supply chain from India. It gives a better control on the quality part. And I am 200% sure about the cost when the people says, if you import from China, this is more cheaper. But I am different. My opinion is different. If I develop this part in India, I think it is more cheaper than Chinese in terms of quality, in terms of sustainability, in terms of economics viability also. So I think Indian product is more better in terms of economics, in terms of quality than other product from the China which the people import. So I think that makes more sense.
Rajiv, if you had to make one prediction about the demand for security services in the next 6-12 months, will it go up? Will it go down? Because I see thefts and social unrest coming. You see security and the outsourced professional services industry will be security plus checking for hygiene, checking for making sure that basic protocol has been followed. Do you see the industry growing on the back of that?
Yes, absolutely. The industry is definitely going to grow. The demand is definitely increasing because people are aware of security and safety now, and people are aware that it has an important role in every business. Whether it is an access control, whether it is inventory management, whether it is supply chain. So security has played a more vital role in last 4, 5, 6 months. So it is definitely going to increase. But the difference that we'll have from a pre-COVID era to a post-COVID era is, as I said initially as well, that technology is going to play a greater role rather than having larger manpower to guard our infrastructure. Technology will play a major role. Also, I mentioned that more and more Make in India products and security technology innovations are happening in India. Another way which we were talking about a few minutes ago is also transfer of technology. We can have technology from outside manufactured in India. We have skills available here. We have infrastructure to develop. So if we make more products of security in India, last but not the least is also the customer. Customer psyche. Customer has to accept that this security product is made in India and it could be better. About a month ago, I was talking to a very large corporate in India, and he specifically called me to ask, which is the better Indian brand who can replace this Chinese product? We want to change it in all our infrastructure. So what encouraging statement it was for the industry.
Good. That's heartening to know. We are in the fag end of the show. Let me start by asking each one of you the same question. Where do you see the economy in 3 to 6 months? Will it be better? Will it be worse? Or will it be tepid like it is right now? We'll start with you, Mr. Khanna. Will the economy in the next 3 to 6 months be better or worse?
I think the economy is going to be a lot better. Early adopters will have the advantage. So anybody who can adopt and monetize the internet quicker will see the advantage in 3 to 6 months, and things will scale a lot quicker.
And where do you think the demand will come from, Samesh? And why do you think the demand will come back?
So I think we've all going through what we've gone through. We've all been forced into a learning curve, and we've all been forced to monetize the internet. And anybody who adopts this really quick is bound to gain. So early adopters, people who've already gone ahead in terms of monetizing the internet.
Digital leapfrogging will help us grow our businesses and demand. Raki Mehta, your quick comment on where the economy is headed.
So I think all new businesses have a great opportunity, but the current businesses will take time. I don't see it coming on a stable scale at least till March 2021. And because I think currently this is an unprecedented situation. The closest reference we have is 100 years back to the Spanish flu. So I think, for anything to circle back to reality, it will take time. So, but post that, India definitely has a winning chance. But of course, depends on how easy our policies become.
Okay, Mr. Mathur.
Well, I think the economy is going to come back the moment we have a confirmation on the vaccine. There will be a lot of change in the thought processes of the businesses. I think it's going to take maybe 6 months or more. March 21, I agree with Raki. March 21 is the time.
Mr. Sharma?
I think I'm bullish on this economy. I think economy will improve, definitely.
When? Question is, we have no doubt that Indian economy will come out stronger. The question is when?
I think maybe the third quarter of this year, maybe after six months, it will be improved. And in case of two-wheeler, I think the people will adopt more shift from public transport to the public mobility also. So in our sector, I think it will be moving very fast.
Okay. Kailash Adhikari?
Economy is definitely, we are seeing a growth trajectory. But yes, coming to pre-COVID levels for the entire economy, at least a year, because there's a limit to which FMCG and e-commerce can push the economy. We need sectors like aviation, travel, tourism, everything to come up to the pre-COVID level. So no doubt about the fact that we are on a growth trajectory. And we have seen in the month of July as the GST collections also picking up. But yes, at least a year.
Finally, Mr. Garg.
Thank you. I think we will all be surprised. I think the September quarter will be weak because that's going to have an impact of the June quarter. But I think from December quarter and March quarter, you will start to see significant growth. The amount of money that's been pumped into the economy will show results. I'm hoping the Prime Minister will announce some serious reforms again tomorrow, day after, as was being talked about. So I think we're in for a pleasant surprise. We may not go back to our 6.5%, but we will not have a decline in March 21.
And on the back of spending more money on infrastructure and printing more currency.
Correct.
So thank you. Back to you.
Okay, that's it. Well, we are out of time with that. Thank you all of you for having this riveting conversation.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.